Joe Buck. Legend. Joe Buck, what's going on?
How are we?
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm good. Are we on?
We are on.
Yes.
I love it. I love walking in. Just go.
Yeah.
How tall are you? You're bigger than I thought you'd be.
I am a little over 6'1".
Oh, okay.
That's a good height.
Well, that's because I work with a giant.
Yep. Who did you work with?
Troy Aikman.
Oh, okay. I like
mean,
Troy
he's-
Aikman. I should
yeah.
probably know that.
He's like 6'5".
By the way, yesterday, Jim was talking about what a Cowboys fan he is.
Well, yeah, but I
and
don't follow
today
them
he's
after.
going, hey, who do you work with?
Right.
Sorry, I didn't buy my car at Roger Staubach's dealership either.
Yeah, right?
You'd think if Troy Aikman was still on television, you
But
would.
you see so many of these guys together,
Yeah,
you just
whatever.
forget who's teamed up with who.
I get it. Yeah, it's fine. But when I said giant, I threw you off. But he's bigger than you think, and I guess people meet me and they think I'm going to be like 5'2".
What is he, like 6'6", Troy? I should probably
He's
know
like
that.
6'5". I don't know, but he's got he's a large human.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, yeah.
Girls must love him.
You think so?
Yeah, chicks love him.
Yeah,
They do, right?
Yeah, I walk around with him. They don't even know I'm there.
That's humiliating,
Nice.
right?
It's humiliating. It's humiliating and yet freeing for some weird reason because I can do whatever I want. I can walk around. Nobody's looking.
Right.
Yeah, but Joe doesn't need to underplay himself. I was reading that article that The Ringer did about you.
Yeah.
And they talked about how you met your wife and that she was a reporter.
Total stock job.
Right. And that you were just like, hey, tell the reporter down there that Joe Buck wants to talk to her.
Yeah.
And she got the message.
No,
and
he
she,
sent it down and said, tell him someone wants to talk to him. And she's like, I hope it's not Joe Buck.
Yes, that's
right.
what she said, literally. And the guy, the go-between, said, why would you say that? She goes, I don't know. I've never heard anything bad about him. He just looks like a smug, arrogant jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why do
thanks.
people think that about you?
That became
I
a
don't know.
metaphor for your career, right?
It did.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I deal with.
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote a friggin' book.
Right.
It's like, here, I'm not the smug, arrogant jerk that you think I am. It's why I called it Lucky Bastard. I am a lucky bastard. But why do people think that? I think because of my style on TV, and I do baseball, and every baseball fan wants to hear their hometown guys, and I'm the national guy, and so they get pissed no matter what you say. And then I guess my style comes off like I think I'm bigger or better than the game. It's actually the other way around. I try to talk, get out of the way, and let the game go.
I never got the impression, like, the only announcer, like, as a Yankee fan, I always thought Joe Morgan didn't like the Yankees. And then someone's like, yeah, because the Big Red Machine, he doesn't
Yeah.
like that the late 90s Yankees are being compared to the... But that's the only time I ever felt that. I never got the impression that you were
Well,
pro
people
or...
in New York are like, I go around, why do you hate the Yankees? I did a thing for Funny or Die on that where people are MFing me everywhere I go. And that just kind of, they're not unique. Kansas City thinks the same thing. And San Francisco, because you're used to hearing guys openly rooting on air for your team.
My manager, Jonathan, Sam and I were in L.A. for the World Series, and my manager's a big Cubs fan. And whenever you would talk, he'd be like, he hates the Cubs!
Yeah, especially when the Cubs were down, by the way. When the Cubs were down, he'd be like, oh, Joe fucking Buck,
Right.
he's talking about the
He
Cubs
hates
again.
the Cubs.
He hates them.
Right.
Listen, he's not talking about the Cubs as enthusiastically.
Right.
He's
It's
so biased. And then
ridiculous.
his wife would just try to be nice, like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, he's biased.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe, I could be wrong, the bias is in the ear of the listener more than it is.
Right.
I mean, come on. If you just take it on face value as an announcer, I'm the only one to ever call them winning the World Series in the history of television. There's a little bit of, I could be accused of going the other way on that. So he's wrong. Tell him, is he your manager?
He's my comedy manager, yeah.
He sucks.
It's so interesting, though. And I feel like, reading the book and reading about you, like the criticisms and the stuff people say about you, like they have a pretty deep effect on you. Like it
Yeah,
seems
I
like
think-
it hits you.
I think it's death by 1,000 cuts. Once you
Yeah.
get it enough. But here's the thing. In person, people are great. Even in New York, they'll go, you hate the Yankees. No, I don't. Okay, what shot you drinking? So then they'll buy you a shot. And, I think you kind of get looked at as a thing. And it's like kill the messenger. Like you just said, when the Cubs aren't playing well, they're down 3-1. I sound like I hate the Cubs because I'm screaming and yelling for the Indians. But then they get mad because I turn around and start screaming for the Cubs when they come back in the series. So, yeah, I think I'm too thin-skinned, and I'm trying to get better at that. I go to therapy for that.
You do?
Hell yeah.
The
How often
therapist.
do you go?
Not enough.
Once a
like
week?
No, like once every 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Does it really help you?
Not to this point, no.
Well, maybe
No.
you got to go more.
I
Once every
think I
3
need to
weeks,
go
probably-
more.
Yeah.
I walk out of there, I feel a little lighter. I feel a little more myself. Feel like the old Joe, the fighting Joe.
Right.
And then, a couple tweets later, and I'm not happy anymore.
It is weird how
Yeah.
like the negative stuff on social. There's a million positive things, but the one negative thing, it's like
You
they're
focus
validating
on
what
that.
I already knew. Like I'm
Yeah.
shitty.
Exactly.
And
But-
it's like the highs and the lows too, because it's so easy, especially like in the business you're in. I'm sure for somebody to like really lift you up, like if the right person says that you did a great job on this call, like you're through the roof. But
Right.
then all you need is that one person
Right.
to say the wrong thing, and it's a total stranger, and your day's ruined.
it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it. But,
Yeah.
But I don't, and I'm not that smart, so I just kind of let it hit.
It changed. I was interested. It said you're a Cardinals fan, so it changed the way you called them winning. Like you said that you think
I
you're.
sucked. Yeah.
I can. Do you have that quality drink? I honestly don't remember it, but I'm sure you didn't suck.
In 2000, it makes me cringe. It's the only
Was that was when they played the Mets?
they played.
so why would they play?
Yeah.
No, that was in the NLCS.
Yeah.
Then and here's what happened. The background is I'm at Shea.
Right.
They put my face on the scoreboard. I'm always going to be associated with the Cardinals, and fans booed because it's the same stuff. He hates my team. He's yelling for the other team. Well, then I get to the World Series. They're playing the Tigers, and I'm hearing it. They end up winning, and I'm like, that's the winner of the Cardinals, the first World Series. It sucked.
Because it got in your head.
It got in my head.
Because the booing and everything.
Yeah.
And when they were booing you, was it just because of your face, or did you
I
were
I
enthusiastic,
have a
right?
huge head.
That's what it was.
I think they were booing the size of me. That's what I told myself. They're not booing me. They're booing the sight of my monstrous head.
It's the first thing you said in therapy. I can't
Yeah.
find the fucking hat.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if I could somehow come up with a hat that fit this head, I'm like 7 7/8.
yeah.
It's a big hat. I mean, that's not like a gift shop hat.
No,
you have to special order.
That's
that.
my hat size too.
Really?
Yeah, and it's really I never wear hats ever, because
Well-
it looks stupid.
Yeah, it looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like a bucket.
I have a
covering your
weird size head, but my face doesn't look good in hats because I have no chin. So I'm
Right.
kind of a round fucking dopey moon face, and it just doesn't. I knew I had a really bad face for hat years ago. A girlfriend I was dating just like, you look terrible in hats.
You look like the
Wow.
you look like a little kid, but you look like a little kid in the Sandlot when you wear hats. Like the brim looks way
It's
too long,
straight and long.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really awful.
when you make that call, like, do you instantly know that
No,
was terrible,
That's
or
one of those you listen. I mean, you're in the moment. You're
Yeah.
hearing the crowd coming through your headset. You think, okay, I nailed that one. And then
Yeah.
I hear it years later. I'm like, yeah.
All right, let me ask you a question. John Sterling, but for the Yankees.
yes.
I love John Sterling and I hate him. Like, I think that he's one of the best. Like, when he's genuinely just doing the regular play-by-play stuff or calling a home run, I love him. But then he puts these little names on people, and I'm like, I don't understand why announcers get caught up.
You hate when he starts because it sounds like he's going into business for himself.
When he makes it about himself, it's
Yeah.
almost like when he's just doing the regular, 2-2, strike three. Like, I love him. I think
Yeah.
his voice is awesome.
I think he's great. He gets picked on in the Post with Phil Mushnick, like every
Does Phil
column
Mushnick
during-
ever say anything nice about
I don't think
anybody?
so.
Fuck that
No.
guy.
He's the
I mean,
worst.
It gets, I get thrown in there all the time, and it's like, oh,
Does he not like you too?
yeah, he didn't. You know what he said about me early in my career? Joe Buck tries to be funny too much. That's like the worst thing. It's not. He gets too silly. So he's trying to be funny.
Right.
That's the worst. But I don't really consider him the arbiter of.
He's the
what's
worst. He's
funny.
literally the worst. I've never read him
So
say
much
anything.
now.
I don't read him. I mean, I've never heard him.
There's no balance. There's very little balance.
No.
Yeah, that's his whole thing, though. That's his shtick. Like, I'm the curmudgeon. Ooh, look out for Phil.
But it's
he
funny.
might tell it like
it's
it is.
funny that when you, it's like, how dare they do this? And, the Fox went into the gutter with this. And then if you pick up the Post, right below his column is like ads for strip joints.
It's
So
Right.
Or the covers of the Post. They show mass shooters, knowing that encourages more mass shooters. They're really in no moral position to complain about anything.
Yeah, we could do seminars on this.
Yeah,
for sure.
we
And
probably
bore
could.
the living hell out of you.
Oh no,
guys.
people get it. So are you are you an insecure guy? I'm an insecure guy.
Totally.
You are.
Yeah.
Who's not? I mean, if you're not an insecure guy, you're a dick.
I don't know, man. Some people I admire who have a certain, like, a decent amount of confidence without being cocky. Like, there's people that have the appropriate amount of confidence.
I grew up as a fat kid. I'm a bald guy by nature. I was picked on as a kid and in the school playground. So
For being fat?
for being fat.
So you have that, like, because we talk about it with girls a lot. When like there's an attractive girl who has no self-confidence, it's because she used to be fat, and she still has fat girl mentality.
Absolutely.
And doesn't realize she could just get whatever she wants. She's hot now.
I interviewed Michael Phelps on this other show I do on DirecTV, and we put the cover up of him with all the gold medals around his neck for Sports Illustrated. I said, "What do you see when you see this picture?" He said, "I see an awkward guy with big ears." I said, "The rest of the world sees 18 gold medals around your neck, and you see a person with big ears and awkward looking." And so that's what I got made fun of. That's all I see when I see that picture.
It is weird how those old tapes from being a kid, they're louder than anything you achieve as an adult. It's being that fucking loser or that frightened idiot.
Yeah.
That plays much louder than anything.
I had all my friends were dating girls, and I had a buddy, Kevin O'Mell. He and I would sit in his basement and watch Vacation for the 58th time on a Friday night. Everybody else was like trying to get beer, before being 21 and dating chicks. And we were done.
Wait, Joe. Did you just say as a child you watched something other than baseball? This is not going to be good for you.
I know.
This is
I've
not.
already
You
gone
should
down that path.
You should
before.
not. What do you mean you watched Vacation?
Yeah, I know. I watched it in Fletch. That was
Chevy
my
Chase's
childhood.
entire catalog.
Pretty much. I was not living and dying and breathing sports constantly, and nor do I now. I have a life. I have friends. I do other stuff.
So I want to know what made you have the strength to ask your wife repeatedly then? Because that's something I'm like a one and done guy. How do you, if you're insecure?
There was something about her.
And she had a boyfriend. She lived with a guy.
Yeah. And I just kept going, and I don't know why. And it was so unlike me, and the fact that I found this as a personal challenge, and I. Literally, it was going to be a restraining order or marriage.
Did you just keep calling her, or would you just kind of bump into her and go, "Hey, I'm still around"?
I kept trying to get to her through an intermediary, Rich Eisen of the NFL Network, and eventually he's like, "You know what? You're both good people. Here's her number. Here's his number. You two work it out." And then we did, and I wore her down, and now she's my wife of 2.5 years.
See, I never know. Like, that's the encouraging part of asking somebody more than once, because I usually ask once, I'm like, fuck her. But, like, sometimes I guess you just know.
I just knew, and believe me, I'd gone through divorce. I have older kids. I was the last guy that was going to get remarried, and I got married, and I'm thankful that I did.
And you talk about a lot of stuff that guys wouldn't talk about. Like, this is what I like about it. Like, you talked about the hair plugs. You talked about being bald. Like, you seem to like talking about things that other people are afraid of.
I don't know. Why?
It was one of the promo stories for the book, though. Like, like you were like, "Hey, I got a book coming out. Guess what? I had 9 hair replacement surgeries. I was addicted to them.
And lost my voice."
Well, here's the thing. And what I found out is anytime, and it was said tongue in cheek. I mean, that's a lot of the book is that way. But when I said addicted, you'd be insane. It's the worst, most painful procedure you could ever do. It's torture. So that was a joke. I wasn't addicted to hair plug surgery. It's like I'm freebasing hair plugs in the corner. I guess you're addicted to the results, but I'm very happy to never do it again. It sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't care about talking about that stuff. And
the only problem was that I felt like, and I said it on the air, that like after that story came out, because we all got such a kick out of it, we were talking about it. But then every time they would show like close-ups of your face at the World Series,
all you're looking at is my hair.
100%.
Yeah, but
just
that's okay.
Do you out yourself about stuff like that? Because like if I say it, they can't get me. Because I kind of do that. Like if you say it, they can't attack you with it because you're owning it.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, people will say they'll make fun of the size of my forehead on Twitter.
Oh, I don't get that too much.
Yeah, right. It's like, but I'm sure they're perfect out there tweeting all that stuff. But I'm like, you think this is bad now? Had I not gone through 8 rounds of torture, it'd be the ugliest fucking head you've ever seen on television in high definition, staring at you.
Yeah.
Do you like what you see when you watch yourself back, or are you like, ugh?
I'm in the middle.
Okay.
I'm not always ugh, but if right outfit, right coloring, good makeup, a nice hair job, I'm passable. I feel all right.
Yeah. You're not the type, though, that goes in and goes, no makeup. This is, I want to go natural.
Aikman does that. Your boy Aikman does that.
He does no makeup?
He hates it. And so then he shows up and he's, oily and glistening, and they're like, please put makeup on. And
Yeah.
he just can't stand it. I don't like it either.
No, what does he say? No, fucking 52 to 17. I'm not putting makeup on, shithead.
Right. Yeah.
By the
pretty
way,
much.
Joe's book, excuse me, Lucky Bastard. It is out. Is it out today? Tuesday.
Today's the day. D-Day.
And Joe's also tomorrow night going to be in conversation. A great place with Michael K. The 92Y. 92y.org for tickets. He also has book signings, which are on the last page of his bio. So I guess we have to find out where they are.
On Thursday at the Yogi Berra Museum.
Yeah.
92nd Street Y, by the way. Sorry, Sam.
Yeah. In Little Falls, New Jersey. Sold out on November 21st in St. Louis. On November 23rd, you're going to be in Grapevine, Texas with Troy Aikman.
Yeah, I'm just calling in people that I think will draw a crowd. And oh, by the way, Joe's here with his book. So I've got John Hamm in St. Louis. I've got Aikman in Dallas. And I figure, hey, they're going to come to see those people, and maybe they'll buy a book while they're there.
That's great. That's a great idea.
That's the thing that I found so interesting about you is that, and I guess it's the right way to live, is that publicly, in terms of the masses, you have the insecurities that you deal with, right? Where they're criticizing you and everything. But in your life where you have friends that are one-on-one, the friends that you have are the people that literally everybody would want to be friends with. John Hamm and Paul Rudd and Eddie Vedder. And these guys are your friends. So you're sitting there and people admire all those guys,
Right.
but they're not sitting there going, well, if those guys think he's cool, then he must be cool, right?
Right. But I'm not going to go, maybe that's why I wrote the book.
to let everybody know who your famous
who my
friends are.
friends are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, Kate Hudson likes me. Why don't you?
Yeah.
Eddie Vedder likes me. Why don't you?
Well, did he accuse you of being a biased? My manager's a Cubs fan. Eddie's a Cubs fan. He didn't accuse you of it.
Because Eddie Vedder's not a dick.
That's a good point.
You think Jonathan Brandstein's a dick?
Yeah, I think he's a dick. And for the rest of time, whenever I'm doing a Cubs game, I'm going to think of Jonathan's little smug-ass face every time I'm doing a call and give it a little extra.
Yeah, make fun of the ivy,
Right.
that shitty weeds
and
on
his
the
wife, and his placating wife, who's going, "You're right, honey. He doesn't like the Cubs."
Well, she
You're
was.
right.
In fairness, though, she was trying to keep him from throwing herself off the balcony. She was
Right.
just trying to prevent a suicide.
No,
So
it's
she was
fair.
doing her duties.
That's fair. I get it.
But it
That's
is
true.
weird when you're watching a thing. You put so much into your team. I did a gig with Brett Butler in '97. And I saw her recently. I hadn't seen her since. And she goes, "Are you still a big Yankees fan?" And I had forgotten that that was a Cleveland Indians.
Yeah.
They had lost in the ALCS or the division series to the Indians. And I was going so fucking crazy at Caroline's, and I was so miserable that she remembered that almost 20 years later
Yeah.
that I couldn't handle the Yankees losing in a series.
Sports has a really powerful place in people's lives. And so when you're there and you're the voice calling, one team's winning, they're all good. They don't care. The team that loses wants to kill the person screaming and yelling for the other team. That's just the life I live.
I think there's also a thing where most people who watch sports aren't looking on the field and thinking, I could be that guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
They don't think I could be a professional athlete. Maybe a couple of people who were good in high school.
Right.
But I think a lot of people watch thinking that they could have your job.
No doubt. And I would love to gather them all up and have them sit down one by one and go. Here's my Twitter. Go.
Yeah.
And it's just, you don't just walk in and do the game. That said, I think a lot of them probably could eventually figure it out. It's not like disarming a nuclear weapon. It's not that
hard. It's not that easy to do because you don't know when do you talk, when do you not talk. It's not an easy thing to do. Especially if it's football, I think is harder because it's constant movement. So it's like with baseball, you have a second, but it's still not easy to know.
But that's the part that freaks some people out. If you see action, at least you can call action. But now, okay, nothing's happening. What are you going to say? And that's why when young people send me their tapes, they're like, hey, I want to get into broadcasting. Here's my highlight reel. If I'm hiring, I don't care how you call the home run. I want to know what you're doing on foul balls and on ball 3 and talking about the giveaway night and all that. That to me is where you earn your money, not on the highlights. Anybody can scream and yell.
What's the worst sports loss you've ever taken?
What?
Like just watching.
Gambling?
No. Oh, do you gamble or no?
No, I don't. I don't think of my father's son, but
Is he a big gambler?
yeah. That kept him alive, I think, the last 5 years of his life. And not to win a bunch of money. I think he just liked figuring out who he thought was going to win.
But did you ever lose a lot of money? Because gamblers are hard to live with.
Yeah,
'cause-
he was like a craps guy. He was a Depression-era kid, never had money, was dirt poor. And then once he had a little bit of money, we would go to L.A. I was 10. And, we'd go to Vegas on the way home. I'd play Donkey Kong all night, and he'd roll craps, and he'd meet me in the room at 7 a.m., and back to St. Louis we'd go.
So what kind of,
Wow.
like, would you know when he had a good night or a bad night?
Oh, yeah.
And were there ever nights where you left for like, let's just go. There's nothing
Oh,
left.
he was pissed.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one time he'd wad of hundreds, and I've never seen him happier. And then another time it was like, well, we worked for free this week, Buck. Don't tell your mother. And then back home we went.
Was it ever in danger of like losing the home or anything
No,
like that? Oh, never that bad.
He
Okay.
he didn't have a problem.
Okay.
No.
He just liked
think.
to. He just liked to gamble.
He
What
liked
was
to
it about his lifestyle that made you follow? Like what
He
made you
just
be
was
like?
happy. I mean, even by the end of his life, he had Parkinson's and diabetes, and he had a pacemaker, but he was shaking, but he could not wait to get down to the ballpark to do a game. And when you see that as a kid, man, sign me up.
Yeah.
I saw other people's parents were not that happy.
Was he insecure?
No, but he didn't deal with all this stuff.
He
and he
didn't
was
have
in
the
World
feedback.
War II, and he was injured in Germany, and he was a Purple Heart recipient. I think once you go through all that, it's like, fuck it. What's the worst that can happen?
What do you find yourself struggling with more when you're calling a game? Like, are you sitting there trying to prove to people that you're a good commentator,
No, I
or
swear
trying
to God, other than we don't have to play the clip, but other than that call, even with the heightened craziness of Cubs Indians, once the game starts, that I don't think about any of that stuff.
You're just thinking about what you're
I
doing.
just do the game, and none of that stuff bothers me. But it's the downtime in between games. I'm like, yeah, screw you.
Right,
That kind of stuff.
right.
Do you have guys throwing stats at you constantly? Because it's like
I hate stats.
You do.
And if I'm relying on stats as opposed to my eyes or being observant of what's actually happening or who's in the bullpen, who's left, what could happen, if I'm just reading numbers, that's boring to me.
And you're doing it 20 years, so how has it changed? Because we talk about political correctness and the way TV is so uptight. And
It's
a lot of guys,
unbelievable.
it's so hard to not, so many guys in the sports world, because sports guys talk a certain way, get in trouble for like a comment that would be okay in the locker room that's not even.
It's unreal, and I saw it from my dad. I talk about that a little bit in the book. My dad made jokes or made light of situations that if you did that now, you wouldn't last till the end of the inning. They'd come in and like send you to Guantanamo Bay
Right.
for saying some of the stuff that he got away with, and it was just kind of laughed off. Now, does that make it right? I'm not saying it's right, but the business has changed to the point where when you're doing a game for 40 million people in Game 7 of a World Series and you want to be funny or you want to be cute or you want to talk about the supermoon or whatever, you better be A, right, and B, if you're funny, you better be boring funny.
Right.
Because you're going to piss a lot of people off in today's world.
That's
It's
a great
not
point.
worth it. It's
Yeah.
not
40
worth
million
it.
people listening at the same time. No matter what joke you make, someone's going to be bothered.
Well,
by it.
that's
Well, people are tuning into you. They know what they're going to get,
Right.
And they like they like what you guys do. They're stuck with me doing the game, and they could be in a nursing home, they could be at a frat party, but it's still my voice. And if you want to start going into areas that are off the beaten path, you better be really careful.
But that's part of it too. I think, especially in the last few years, anyway, is that maybe the NFL more than baseball, but baseball too. They're trying to open these sports up to as many conceivable eyes as possible. So you're not just going out to the typical football fan, the typical baseball fan. They're trying to get families. They're trying to get all these people.
No doubt.
So you better make sure that you line up with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're always trying to get new people under the tent watching this stuff. And, that's, to me, it's also hurt the NFL with these international games and starting games at 8 a.m. in London, and people aren't seeing them. And it's hurt ratings. I think that's one of the issues. Everybody's talking, why are the NFL ratings down? That's a part of it. But again, it's made everybody boring. It's made everybody go right down the middle lane, and every announcer sounds like everybody else. And it's too bad because the real personalities, the Harry Careys and guys like that are long gone, and that act wouldn't work anymore.
Yeah, Madden and Summerall were always fun to listen to. It's like you kind of look forward to them. You always liked when they were calling your team's game.
No doubt.
I don't know why and I wonder if the ratings have dropped because of stuff like Red Zone, where there's not as much of a press to watch the game because you can just go click the highlights real quick.
And maybe and a lot of that's fantasy football. You don't really care who wins the game.
Right.
Is my tight end in that game? If he's not, I got the tight end for the Jaguars. I'm going to watch that, on Red Zone or whatever, and maybe that's taken away some, while I think it's also added a lot because the average fan knows a hell of a lot more about the sports we're doing than they ever did, and that's a part of it.
When you have when the world comes down on you the couple times that it has, either for the Randy Moss thing or for the Bachelor
what was
thing
the
or
Randy
whatever.
Moss thing?
Well, he made a call. Randy Moss did a mock mooning of the crowd after he scored, and
In Green Bay.
yeah, and Joe said it was, I believe,
Disgusting.
Yeah, that is disgusting.
That is disgusting.
And everybody was like, "Tell him to get his fucking head out of his ass. He's so buttoned up. He's so, you know what I mean."
So that fed the idea that I'm this
nerd who can't
nerdy prude play-by-play guy, which whatever.
Did you feel it was disgusting what he did, or the fact that just enough with these guys doing this nonsense?
It hit me. I've done games where Terrell Owens grabbed the pom-poms, and that stuff's funny. I thought to paying fans in a playoff game to go to the fans, turn your backside to them and fake shimmying your pants down, then go to the goalpost and kind of do the same thing. I was like, come on. I think you need to be better than that. Randy and I are great. I saw him last night, took a picture with him and put it on Twitter. Like we're taking this act on the road. But, I got a lot of crap for that. And
it's still your number one most viewed YouTube thing.
Thank God.
I did a search for it, and that's number one.
Yeah. So there it is right there.
That's funny.
We're taking our act on the road.
But so the other thing that they came down on you for was saying that you're just as likely to watch The Bachelor as you are a baseball game.
Yeah, and that's true. That's true today.
But I think Skip Bayless was going nuts on you after that one. Wasn't he calling for your job and stuff? Yeah. And when you have people who are fellow broadcasters, do you not for instance, comedians don't really trash other comedians because it's there's
unless there's a good reason to, yeah.
Right. There's kind of a bit of a brotherhood. So when you're watching Skip Bayless, are you what do you Skip? What the fuck is your problem?
I don't care what he said then or now.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff is just sensational. I'm going to take a crazy. I'm going to call for this guy's job. I mean, it went no.
Was he joking when he said it, or did he really mean it?
No, he's like, this is Jack Buck's son, and he says my point was, it was Colin Cowherd asked me, and he said, are you watching games every night and going to bed and watching the West Coast games, and I was like, I have a wife, I have daughters, I'm watching The Bachelor, I'm cooking dinner. I read and I'm up on what I need to be up on, but I have a life. I'm not a sports nerd that's
right.
And nothing against it, but that's just I feel like there's more to life than just
one
following
thing.
Sports.
Yeah.
And he got mad at you and thought you should be fired for what? For what?
I mean, there was all it
because
became
I didn't
outrageous.
Watch games every night.
Yeah.
Why does Skip care?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't
Who cares?
matter. But here's the funny part of that. I care less about what he or somebody like him would think of me than I do the random guy on Twitter.
Really?
Probably, yeah.
Because he's probably sensationalizing. He's
or awful announcing, does something that's just clickbait. It's just I don't care about that stuff. But it's the random guy that has a clever thing that's that got me.
Well, because that guy is not confirming something that you feel deep down. Some asshole saying you should be fired, you're like, oh, shut up. But someone going, you stink. It's like, oh God, they know.
Yeah,
yeah.
I've been found out. That's how I started. My first World Series, I was 27, thinking, I'm at Yankee Stadium doing the Yankees and Braves going on. I hope to God I don't get exposed as a fraud over the next X number of games. And thankfully I didn't. And I've done 18 more since. But
that was your first one, 96?
96.
Wow.
Have you gotten over that feeling?
Yeah.
That's gone.
I'm not nervous I know I can handle whatever's going to come my way.
So you don't have the thing of oh, well, if the people in charge read these tweets, they're going to find out I'm terrible and they're going to...
No.
That doesn't sink in at all.
No.
That's good.
I don't think
That's
so.
healthy. It shouldn't, but...
Yeah, and I think there's a place for all that stuff, but that can't be, and anybody in a position of power that's doing hiring at Fox is not being swayed by Twitter.
Right.
It's too big of a gamble. It's too, the money they have invested in the NFL, let alone in our booth, with Troy and me, and financially that's not swayed by Twitter.
Plus, you could just have John Hamm write a letter of recommendation.
Right.
And he's got clout.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So
Vedder.
you're good.
Vedder could
yeah,
do a
Vedder
song.
could do it.
Yeah. Paul Rudd could do a romantic comedy.
What did you
with
think?
Tina Fey.
Did you hear Eddie Vedder's Cubs song?
I didn't hear it, no. I did not. But I spent the entire, here's name dropping.
Mm-hmm. Tell me.
I spent the entire postseason for your buddy's Cubs going across the street to Murphy's bleachers and going up to the rooftop and just hanging with Vedder and singing karaoke with him until 4:30 in the morning.
Was he good at karaoke?
No. No, he was great. And I was doing lead-ins to songs, and he's playing underneath me. It was just, it
That's
was
a fun
awesome.
life.
Travis, would you have been bored hanging out there?
Oh, he's a big Eddie. I forgot you're a big,
Our producer Travis is the biggest Pearl
And he's
Jam
wearing
fan.
a Pearl Jam sweatshirt.
from Fenway.
Yes,
Yeah.
normally it's the necklace he has.
I can tell you honestly.
Pearl.
I can tell you honestly, Eddie Vedder is the nicest human being to anybody. I've seen it. Anybody that he comes in contact with, he's like, it's almost not real.
Makes
He's
me
that
so
nice.
happy.
You want to meet him?
No.
You prefer not to, right?
No, you wouldn't be let down. I promise. He's a
That's
good,
amazing.
good guy.
Well, everybody pick up the book. It's called Lucky Bastard. There's a ton of
Out today?
It's out today. There's a ton of really great stories in there. It's not just I mean, it's. I feel
It's
like
not a
it's
sports book.
It's you finally getting to
Right.
like let this out there, right?
Yeah.
Like say this is who I am. You can stop just creating this thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I said to the publisher, I'm sorry, but if this sells one copy or 1 million, I'm still going to feel good because at least it's out there.
Right. Right.
So it's cathartic.
And
great.
tomorrow night, Joe, is at the 92nd Street Y, which is an amazing place to see people. That's
where we saw
that's
Gene
where we
Wilder.
saw Gene Wilder. I went with Sherrod to see Sidney Poitier speak
Amazing.
The best.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah.
there. Yeah, he was an awesome. He was a very calm, quiet guy to watch talk, but it was just nice to be in the room with him.
Yeah.
Well, didn't they videoed that? Didn't I see that with?
I don't know.
He did a thing with Mel Brooks.
It wasn't with Mel
No.
Brooks.
Okay, then
No,
this was a
some
different
woman
event.
interviewed him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 92y.org if you want some tickets. There's a few tickets they probably released. They always do that for the ticket holders that monthlies that can't make it. And also go to some book signings, which are, Sam,
Exciting.
Yeah, the book signings
some really good
are.
ones.
I'm gonna let people feel my hair plugs. Sign a book. Run your fingers through this.
Well,
hair.
how about you pull one out and you give it as a bookmark?
Yeah, that'd be nice. Now I've spent way too much money on these to give them away.
Thursday at the Yogi Berra Museum in Little Falls, New Jersey. November 23rd at Books A Million in Grapevine, Texas with Troy Aikman. And on December 5th in Beverly Hills at the Beverly Hills Library with Rich Eisen.
Ta-ta.
Yeah.
And we have coming up, we got Dennis Quaid next, and I'll be in Fort Lauderdale this Friday and Saturday at the Improv. We'll be right back, I
And
guess.
if you're tall and you meet Joe, look at him in the eyes because he
Yeah.
knows when you're staring
Yeah.
at his hair plugs.
I know it.
You know, he can tell.
It's a little bell that goes off in my head.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Joe.
man.
All right, guys. Thanks.